Sir, today the article is from NIH Public Access and Evaluation of a Thyroid Nodule, published last in 2010 of April. Introduction. The thyroid nodule is a common entity. The data shows 50% prevalence of thyroid nodules larger than 1 centimeter in patients without clinical evidence of any thyroid disease. But the prevalence of palpable nodules is only 4 to 7%. Ultrasound is far more sensitive than palpation, as it detects nodules of any size up to 67% of general population. Thyroid nodules warrants removal when they are large enough to be symptomatic, or if there's a concern for malignancy. The majority of nodules are asymptomatic, and with only 5 to 10% of nodules are being malignant.
So what are the learning points on this slide?
First of all, coming to the clinical scenario, if a patient presents to you, it can thyroid nodule can be made out either from the palpation or on any
or by autopsy. You don't have to kill the person and do an autopsy. What does it say?
Autopsy means cross-section.
Autopsy data, there is a 50% prevalence, but clinically when you examine, it's only around 4 to 7% only you can pick them up.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The most important point is here, thyroid nodules are clinically palpable in around 5% of people. That is one learning point. Okay. Even if the nodule is there, clinically we may not be able to detect the nodule unless it is really big. Small nodules cannot be made out clinically. That is one thing. Okay. And if you use an ultrasound, that 5% can extend up to 67%.
7%.
Okay. Another thing is, when they are large enough to be symptomatic or when there is malignancy, there is a need to do surgery.
Okay, sir.
When do you do surgery? When they are causing pressure symptoms and large enough, or when there is malignancy. Okay. And what is the prevalence of malignancy? It's quite small. Around 5 to 10% of the nodules only are malignant. So when you read this, verbatim, you need not copy the data from there. This is how you learn. Okay. Anyway, you have taken it line to line from there and typed it fine. The learning points in this slide is generally 5% of the thyroid nodules only are clinically palpable. Okay. 67% can be diagnosed by doing an ultrasound. And they require surgery when it's large enough to cause symptoms or when it is malignant. The next question is, what is the prevalence of malignancy? It is around 5 to 10%. Suppose 100% are malignant. Then there is no question. I have to hook or crook, I have to find out. Do all the tests possible and find out the thyroid nodule if it is there, because the fellow will have malignancy. That is not the case. Only around 5% of the patients or 10% at the most are malignant. Okay. So write down the learning points separately on your notes, and that is how you interpret a journal article when you are reading it. Thyroid nodules are common, and thyroid nodules can be palpated by 5 to 10% of persons on clinical examination only. The sensitivity, the detection can be improved up to 70% by doing an ultrasound. And only 10% of the maximum are malignant. We require to remove it for two reasons. One, when it is malignant. Two, when there are pressure symptoms. Okay, that's all this English. Go to the next one. Okay.
Ultrasound imaging studies and cytology from fine needle aspiration are the main tools used by the clinician to decide whether surgical excision of a thyroid nodule is warranted. Molecular genetic biomarker analysis are now being used to increase the accuracy of the fine needle aspiration biopsies.
Diagnosis. Diagnosis is by USG, FNAB, biomarkers. Okay, that's all. Only 3 lines. You can just put those 3 captions and explain it rather than writing all that. Okay. Ultrasound is the thyroid nodules are diagnosable by 3 mechanisms. One way is to do an ultrasonogram. 2, to do an FNAB, fine needle aspiration biopsy. And 3, you can use in some circumstances, you can use biomarkers. Okay. Now let us see what they are, what biomarkers are, and what is the cytology like, how you classify. All that will come in the article. These are the 3 lines only, three words: USG, FNAB, biomarker. Next.
Clinical assessment presentation as a large palpable nodule in the neck. Report of an incident nodule found on imaging studies performed for another reason. The overall risk of malignancy within a gland with a solitary nodule is approximately equal to that of a multinodular goiter due to additive risk of each nodule.
So that the third statement is not very much clinically relevant. One thing is, either if it is large enough, patient will come and you examine and find out. Or if it is small, it may be an incidental finding on an ultrasonography. Okay.
Patient's history, which increase the likelihood of malignancy. Prior head and neck radiation, especially during childhood. Rapid growth, dysphagia, dysphonia, male gender. Presentation at extremes of ages, that is less than 20 years or more than 70 years. Family history of medullary thyroid carcinoma or multiple endocrine neoplasia.
Hold on. Here, the first of all, you say, yeah, you have a thyroid nodule. When you say a patient, he'll ask me, sir, is it cancer? The question immediately for the clinician and the patient is it malignant? How do I decide? Probably these are the factors which decide whether a thyroid nodule is malignant or not. 1, he had irradiation of the neck for some other reason. 2, the nodule is growing very fast. 3, there are pressure symptoms like dysphagia on the esophagus, dysphonia on the recurrent laryngeal nerve. Male gender, because thyroid malignancies are more common in men, thyroid endocrinopathies are more common in women. Thyroid endocrinopathy means hyperthyroid, hypothyroid, or diseases of the woman, whereas thyroid nodule with malignancy is more common in men. And less than 20, more than 70, if the patient is in that age group, the risk of malignancy is higher. In addition, if the person gives a history, my father had thyroid cancer and they said it is medullary cancer. Yeah, this could also be malignancy, isn't it? So these are the points you have to understand. Prior radiation, rapid growth of the nodule, dysphagia, dysphonia, pressure symptoms, male gender, extremes of age, and family history of medullary carcinoma. Okay? You have this is what exactly they have given ABCD like that. You have put it. Nice, it's okay. Next one. Say that.
On physical examination, findings that increase the concern for malignancy include nodules larger than 4 centimeters in size, firmness to palpation, fixation of the nodule to adjacent tissues, cervical lymphadenopathy, focal fold immobility.
Yeah, this again tells me which particular nodule could be malignant. This is from the history and this is from the physical finding. In the physical finding, the larger the nodule, the chances of malignancy are higher. The nodule is firm to hard, of course, malignant. Adherent to the underlying tissues, definitely more malignant. There is associated lymphadenopathy. Normally, why should thyroid enlargement will have lymphadenopathy? There is no reason. So if there is a lymphadenopathy, cervical lymphadenopathy, it could be malignant. What is vocal fold immobility? What did you learn about that? What do you understand by that?
Sir, I couldn't hear, sir. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Hello? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you tell me what is vocal fold immobility. You don't know?
Recurrent laryngeal.
Why? I don't. How about others? Can you hear Magna? I am not able to hear her.
Hello, sir.
Now I am able to hear. Sometimes it is breaking.
Sir, due to recurrent laryngeal nerve involvement may cause
Recurrent laryngeal involvement is okay.
Palsy, vocal cord palsy.
See, you just put the larynx mirror and the indirect laryngoscopy mirror and ask the patient to say ah and e. When you say ah, the vocal cords are abducted. They go away from one another. When you say e, the vocal cords come together or adducted. This is what is called the mobility of the vocal cord.
Positive predictive values of 100% for thyroid malignancy in the setting of a nodules have been reported for the physical examine findings of cervical lymphadenopathy that is greater than 1 centimeter and focal fold immobility. A thorough head and neck examination with visualization of vocal fold movement is utmost importance on initial presentation.
So that means what? Even if the nodule is 1 centimeter, if there is an involvement of the vocal cord or the mobility of the vocal cord is compromised, then more likely to be malignant. That's what he's saying. Okay, such an important thing is ENT examination. What does it prompt you? Every patient of thyroid nodule, you should send him to the ENT gentleman and ask him to see whether there is vocal cord involvement and vocal cord movement is all right or not. If you are competent, you yourself can see. It is not a very big thing. All you require is an indirect laryngoscopy mirror and ask the patient to put the tongue out, hold it with the left hand and open the mouth wide and look at the vocal cords in the indirect laryngoscopic mirror, which you are trained in the ENT. You should be able to do it. But if you are not sure, you can always ask the ENT people to look at the vocal cords and see whether there is any vocal cord immobility is there or not. So this is again prompting the clinician for ENT referral. Okay, not to ask him several questions. Only one thing, sir. Please check the vocal cords and send this patient back. That's all. Is like you write. Okay, he has a thyroid nodule. Please check the vocal cord movement and give your opinion. That should be. So you have to write and send. Okay, next. Do it.
Coming to laboratory studies, we will be advising thyroid stimulating hormone levels, T3, T4, serum calcitonin levels, which should be obtained in any patient with a family history of medullary thyroid carcinoma, multiple endocrine neoplasia, type 2A and 2B, pheochromocytoma, or hyperparathyroidism. Calcitonin levels alone are unable to distinguish between benign and malignant disease.
So what are the lab tests you order? Thyroid function tests. The basic test would be TSH. I won't be interested in pre-thyroxine or triiodothyronine, but I'm interested in the TSH. If the TSH is elevated, these tests are not required. It is hypothyroidism. And hypothyroidism never goes with the solitary nodule. Okay, hypothyroidism is always, solitary nodule may be associated with hyperthyroidism. Solitary nodule can be a functioning nodule or a cold nodule. For that reason, the TSH is done. If the TSH is low, confirm the hyperthyroidism by doing a FT4 and FT3. The test you have to order is not, don't write T3, T4, TSH always, just write TSH, see whether it is normal or elevated, no problem. TSH is lower, that is depressed, then look for FT4. And so this is what we have to do. TSH normal, no problem. TSH is lower, do a free hormone, T4 and T3. This medullary cancer that doing calcitonin, forget about it. It's not a very common scenario. We don't get medullary thyroid cancer so often. In fact, the thyroid cancers themselves are not very frequent, and in the nodule only 5%. Out of that, having medullary cancer and doing calcitonin to make a diagnosis is not required. So calcitonin is not routinely ordered. That's what, and it cannot distinguish between malignant and diagnosis. So use of calcitonin as a diagnostic tool is not warranted. Okay.
Imaging studies, ultrasonography. Ultrasonography is the study of choice for thyroid nodules. It can identify nodules which are too small to be palpated. The presence of multiple nodules, central or lateral neck lymphadenopathy, and provide accurate measurements of nodule diameter for interval monitoring. Additionally, it allows characterization of nodules by sonographic features which suggest malignancy.
Ultrasound is the diagnostic modality. That is the learning point, nothing much, because the rest is with the radiologist. Ultrasonographer, the test you order imaging study, you have to write for ultrasound of the thyroid. Don't ask for radionuclide scan or CT or MRI or anything to start with. The first basic test is ultrasonography of the thyroid gland.
Solid appearance, increased vascularity, microcalcifications, irregular margins, and absence of halo are the features that have been consistently associated with malignancy.
Yes.
These
These are for
features are
whom? This is for the radiologist. For the radiologist to know whether it could be malignant, there are some guidelines. Just as you had some clinical guidelines, like the male gender and then extremes of age, all that for the history. For the radiologist, there are 4 or 5 guidelines they have given: increased vascularity, microcalcification, irregular margin, halo feature, and maybe malignancy. Next one.
These features are extremely useful in selecting the site within a nodule for fine needle aspiration biopsy in order to improve diagnostic yield or to select appropriate nodules to aspirate within a multinodular thyroid.
Okay, usually these biopsies are done with the help of a radiologist. So ultrasound guided biopsy we do, and the radiologist will say, look here, this is the one which is increased vascularity. This is the one with irregular margins. This area is the one with microcalcifications. Let us put the needle there. Then either the surgeon or the physician puts the needle in that area and aspirates the cytology. It can be called as FNAC we call. You can also call it as FNAB also, nothing wrong. B is biopsy, C is cytology. Actually, we are not taking any tissue there as a cut tissue. It's just fine needle aspiration cytology. In our country, we call it as fine needle aspiration cytology. Okay, next. Yeah.
Radioisotope imaging to determine if a thyroid nodule is functioning, but it does not provide any accurate measurement of nodule size. Radioisotopes that have been used are technetium-99, iodine 123, and 131 is preferred. About 80 to 85% of thyroid nodules are cold. 10% of these represent a malignancy. Hot nodules account for 5% of all nodules, and the likelihood of malignancy is less than 1%. The sensitivity for the diagnosis of thyroid cancer is 89 to 93%. Specificity is only 5%. And the positive predictive value of malignancy is 10%. Except for obviating to the need to perform a FNAB on a hyperfunctioning nodule in a thyrotoxic patient, the use of isotope scanning has nearly been abandoned in the initial workup of a thyroid nodule.
What is the summary of this slide?
Radioisotope imaging is only useful for thyroid, whether the thyroid nodule is being active or not, but it does not be useful in estimating the size. And the most commonly used isotopes are technetium.
Now, all that is there in the, I just asked you 2 or 3 lines of summary. Do you, in other words, do you prescribe a radioisotope imaging for a thyroid nodule?
No, sir.
No, because the diagnostic accuracy of thyroid nodule is so low, it's not required, because its specificity is very low. What is specificity? Specificity is the ability to confirm disease. Sensitivity is the ability to rule out the disease. So it will rule out up to 90% there is no thyroid nodule. But already you can rule out easily with your ultrasound itself. You don't require this for that. Specificity to confirm that it is malignant, it is not useful. So it is not really very useful. Positive predictive value is as low as 10%. Suppose radioiodine is positive, radioiodine uptake is increased. I can't say it is malignant because its positive predictive also value is also very low. So it is generally not used. So earlier slide you see, we use the ultrasound as the diagnostic tool, but not a radioiodine. Ultrasound guided FNAB. First test ultrasound to know whether there is a nodule. If there is a nodule, then to go for FNAB, you require an ultrasound guided FNAB is more accurate than doing a simple FNAB without the ultrasound guidance, because the yield will be better. Third, we don't use the radioisotope imaging in thyroid nodule. We use it in hyperthyroidism. That's a different story. We don't use it here. Now, what are the types of things that are happening? There is one thing called the nodule may be cold, the nodule may be hot, the nodule, hot nodule and cold nodule. Cold nodule is, the way the radioisotope uptake is rather subnormal. Three reports can come. Uptake normal, uptake low, cold nodule, uptake increased. The uptake is low, it is a cold nodule. The uptake is increased, it is a hot nodule. If it is a hot nodule, the chances of malignancy is small. A cold nodule, chances of malignancy is plus. And suppose you ask, the patient, sir, I got a report, they said it is a cold nodule. Could it be cancer? Yes, more likely. It is a hot nodule, saved. More likely it is not cancer, because hot nodules are hyperfunctioning nodules and they are hyperthyroid. Usually, malignant nodules are not hot nodules. That is the learning point. Okay. CT and MRI. Read.
Both of these imaging modalities have almost no role in initial evaluation of thyroid nodule.
Correct.
However, they are excellent, being 100% sensitive for evaluating the extent of large substernal goiters, which may be having compressing feature nearby structures.
Yeah.
Of note, iodinated contrast material utilized by CT scan should be avoided because it prevents syncytiography or administration of radioactive iodine therapy for a period of 1 or 2 months. Gadolinium contrast used with MRI does not interfere with thyroid uptake of radio tracer, but it is significantly more expensive than CT or ultrasound.
Yeah. Learning points are CT and MRI are not required straight away. When are they required? Only when there is a substernal goiter. Because substernal goiter you cannot reach with ultrasound. So you require a MRI or CT. And even if you want to do a contrast study, don't use iodine because it might interfere with your treatment and diagnosis later on. Use gadolinium, but gadolinium is expensive. That's what she said. But in general, no role. That is the first point. And they are useful for substernal goiter. That's all. Next one.
18-FDG fluorodeoxyglucose Houston emission tomography, computed tomography. It is used extensively in oncology for staging, evaluation of treatment response, and detecting recurrence, as malignant cells have higher uptake of 18-FDG due to increased metabolic demands compared to normal tissues.
Okay.
Generally, the appearance of images and the maximum standard uptake value can be used to distinguish between malignant and benign lesion. But there is no significance in SVU max between benign and malignant thyroid nodules.
So what is the conclusion?
18-FDG is generally used is not used for evaluation of thyroid nodule.
Which one? PET CT.
Oh, yes, sir.
PET scan is not used for evaluation of thyroid nodules. Okay, and it is very expensive, and then it is not able to distinguish between malignant and the benign one. And the first line is your principle of PECT. PECT, all of you should know the principle of PECT. In PECT, what we give is fluorodeoxyglucose is given, and this fluorodeoxyglucose positron, the emission will be tested. It emits some positrons, something like an electrically charged particles. That is picked up by the scan. And in where there is a rapid multiplication, then there is more amount of PET density of the image there. That is the principle. Okay, next. Yeah.
18-FDG may play a role in reducing the need for diagnostic thyroid lobectomy for FNAB indeterminate lesions because it has negative predictive values of 95 to 100%.
Okay.
It does not play a role in the workup of it. That's what.
That is the bottom line. Yeah,
Yeah.
it does not play a role in the workup of the nodule. But if there is a doubtful lesion, then probably whether you go in for lobectomy or not, for that decision, you might need it. That's what you say. Okay. FNAB.
FNAB is the most important step in the workup of a thyroid nodule, as cytology is the primary determinant in whether thyroidectomy is indicated or not. It is widely available and well tolerated, with a low risk of complication, and has dramatically decreased the number of thyroidectomies performed, improved the yield of malignancies in glands that have been extirpated.
So,
The pathology
hmm.
The pathology report from FNAB may be read as benign, malignant, indeterminate, or non-diagnostic. There is currently no standard means of reporting FNAB cytology with regard to indeterminate specimens. And recently, the latest proposal from NCI, National Cancer Institute, is given in the following table regarding the risk of malignancy.
Correct. So, how do you classify the FNAC report? It can be reported as benign, indeterminate, non-diagnostic. There is another category that also they are showing there. See, benign lesions, follicular lesions, neoplastic lesions, suspicion of malignancy, non-diagnostic. These are the various categories they have given. Okay. Next.
The only malignant pathology reliably diagnosed by fine needle aspiration is papillary thyroid carcinoma. It has features such as orphan Annie nuclei, nuclear grooves, intranuclear inclusions, and samoma bodies can be sufficient for a diagnosis. Benign and malignant follicular neoplasms, oncocytic adenomas and carcinomas, which is formerly called Hurtl cell, cannot be distinguished on the basis of cytology alone, as tissue architecture is required to make the diagnosis of malignancy by observation of capsular or angiolymphatic invasion. Recent studies in the application of molecular markers to FNAB are changing these principles.
Okay.
Coming to molecular markers in FNAB. The use of genetic biomarkers to assist in interpretation of FNAB samples likely enhance the ability to distinguish between benign and malignant thyroid nodules along with cytology. This stands in distinct contrast to immunohistochemical staining techniques, indeterminate FNAB specimens.
Okay.
Genetic mutations implicated in the development of differentiated thyroid carcinoma alter the DNA sequences encoding tyrosine kinase receptors, nuclear proteins, and signaling proteins. RET or PTC rearrangements occur only in papillary thyroid carcinoma, but NTRK and BRAF mutations are also common. Greater than 70% of papillary thyroid carcinomas will have mutations in BRAF, RAS, RET, or PTC genes. The BRAF V600E mutation is associated with more aggressive forms of papillary carcinoma.
So what are these? These are molecular markers done on the FNAC specimen. BRAF and RAS mutations are the commonly tested ones. This is when you have a doubt whether it is malignant or not for everyone. When the pathologist says indeterminate or indeterminate, then you have to use this. Not when it is clearly benign or clearly malignant. These have got no role. Okay.
Mutations in RAS proto-oncogenes or PAX8 rearrangement are found in approximately 70% of follicular carcinoma. Finding the BRAF mutation, RET or PTC gene rearrangements is an indeterminate. FNAB specimen has been correlated with 100% specificity of thyroid cancer in recent prospective studies, and RAS mutation similarly correlated with 87% risk of malignancy in any FNAB sample. A false positive BRAF mutation has been described in RET rearrangement, can be found in benign conditions like trabecular adenoma and Hashimoto's thyroiditis.
More technical details about the RAF mutation as well as the BRAF mutation and RAS mutation. Okay.
BRAF and RAS are currently the most widely prevalent and studied mutations in clinical decisions.
Correct.
For RET or PTC, PAX8 mutations appears promising, although the exact indications for mutation analysis are still under investigation.
Yeah.
It appears that most clinical utility lies in aiding to make the decision between the thyroid lobectomy and total thyroidectomy when the cytology is characterized as follicular neoplasms or suspicious for malignancy.
Yeah, only if at all you want to use a marker, these are the two markers commonly used, BRAF or RAS mutations, and these are used on the FNAC specimen. FNAC you do and take out the material. On that, these are done, and these will be useful only in case of indeterminate, okay, doubtful cases, not when it is confirmed malignancy or confirmed benign lesion. It's only on the indeterminate we use it.
Nodule size. Sampling error of FNAB increase as the size of thyroid nodule increases. 17% false negative rate of solid thyroid nodules 3 centimeters or larger in size, and a 30% false negative rate for cystic nodules. For cystic nodules 3 centimeters or larger led to recommendation for diagnostic lobectomy. For any nodule 3 centimeter or larger in size. More recent research has reported that this measurement may be increased to 4 centimeters with the increased diagnostic yield of modern ultrasound guidance for FNAB.
Okay.
The rate of cancer for 4 centimeter nodules is 19%, with a false negative rate of FNAB of 12.7%. The age of patient must also be considered, as definitive lobectomy is often preferred to multiple FNABs required to follow a nodule in an younger patient. A single preoperative FNAB is still useful in nodules 3 to 4 centimeters in diameter that are destined for surgical excision, because a malignant biopsy always allows planning for total thyroidectomy without the need for frozen section analysis. Frozen section analysis. For FNAB indeterminate specimens, a diagnostic thyroid lobectomy is often performed with intraoperative frozen section analysis in order to prevent a return trip to the operating room for complete thyroidectomy. Proponents for routine use of intraoperative frozen section have demonstrated cost effectiveness and a reduced number of complete thyroidectomies when it is utilized for follicular lesions. Frozen section analysis often complements that fine needle aspiration cytology. In cases with cytological atypia or suspicious appearance, it is most useful at making a diagnosis of papillary thyroid carcinoma. Workup and surgical recommendations. It is based upon 2006 American Thyroid Association guidelines for the workup of a thyroid nodule with incorporation of mutational analysis. One indication for surgery is whether the nodule is symptomatic due to compression of nearby structures. These patients are typically evaluated with CT or MRI and loop spirometry. And a lobectomy is typically performed to remove the compressive lesion. In rare instances, a total thyroidectomy is indicated if both lobes of thyroid are problematic. Any symptomatic thyroid nodule should be evaluated with a diagnostic ultrasound and a TSH level.
That is the bottom line. First, any asymptomatic the ATA guidelines say that every thyroid nodule should be evaluated with a diagnostic ultrasound and, of course, a TSH level also to know whether it is a hyperfunctioning nodule or a non-functioning nodule. Okay. Great.
Nodules smaller than 1 centimeter in diameter should be followed with an yearly ultrasound with FNAB indicated for any concerning changes in appearance or growth. A biopsy or of sub-centimeter nodules may be indicated if there is a significant history of radiation exposure, a strong family history of thyroid carcinoma, or worrisome sonographic features. A subnormal TSH level increases suspicion for hyperfunctioning nodule, and only is the circumstance should a thyroid uptake can be ordered. If the nodule is hot, the patient can be managed by their endocrinologist without further workup, as there is less than 1% risk for malignancy.
Yeah, something is a hot nodule. That means the TSH is lower. Then naturally it is more a hyperfunctioning nodule and is in the realm of the endocrinologist and not the surgeon. Okay.
Unless easily palpable, an ultrasound guided FNAB is the best first diagnostic step for an asymptomatic thyroid nodule with a diameter of 1 centimeter or larger in a euthyroid patient. Even if the nodule is symptomatic or in a 4 centimeter size range, which alone warrants surgical excision, an FNAB is recommended as it may preoperatively determine whether a total thyroidectomy is to be performed over a lobectomy. FNAB cytology will return as unsatisfactory, benign, indeterminate, or malignant. The intermediate group has been subclassified into follicular lesion of undetermined significance, follicular neoplasm, or suspicious for malignancy, according to 2000 Bethesda thyroid cytology classification from the National Cancer Institute.
Okay, this is what you need to remember. Follicular lesions of undetermined significance, it is called FLUS. Usually the FNAB cytology throws 4 results. 1, unsatisfactory, 2, benign, 3, indeterminate, 4, malignant. Okay, and the 5th one is FLUS, follicular lesion of undetermined significance. Where exactly the biomarkers come into picture.
FNAB specimens read as unsatisfactory should be sent for a repeat biopsy so that useful diagnostic information may be obtained. Samples read as flush are generally sent for repeat FNAB as the risk for malignancy is only 5 to 10%.
Okay.
Yet, if the flush sample is positive for BRAF and RAS mutation, a total thyroidectomy is indicated.
Correct.
Benign lesions can safely be followed with an yearly ultrasound examination with a repeat FNA with any increase in size of development of concerning sonographic features. A malignant lesion identified by FNAB is an indication for total thyroidectomy, and an ultrasonography should assess central or lateral nodal. Patients with lesions classified as follicular or oncocytic neoplasms or suspicious for malignancy should be offered a diagnostic lobectomy in situations where molecular genetics is not available. Where diagnostic testing with BRAF RAS mutation is available, these mutations in an indeterminate FNAB specimen predicts malignancy with 100% specificity and positive predictive value. Even when the histologically benign RAS positive follicular adenomas are likely precursors to be follicular carcinomas. Molecular testings are not routinely done due to their cost. Indeterminate FNAB appears to be invaluable. Further clinical studies are required to determine the cytology and imaging characteristics of nodules where molecular markers are beneficial while cost efficient and whether these markers have prognostic information about the status of lymphatic blood into the neck.
Okay.
Coming to summary, thyroid nodules are common entities and are found through physical examination or incidentally by imaging performed for other reasons. Majority of nodules are benign, but they warrant surgical excision when they are large enough to be symptomatic or if suspected for malignancy. Ultrasound is the primary imaging study for thyroid gland nodules. Nodules of 1 centimeter or larger or sonographically suspicious subcentremic nodule warrant cytological analysis through fine needle aspiration biopsy to determine the high risk of malignancy. Molecular biomarkers are able to detect malignancy in FNAB specimens and are serving as powerful adjunct to cytology when they are available. Even when histologically benign, RAS positive, the use of molecular testing is unlikely to be routinely performed on all FNA specimens due to cost, but their role. Detecting malignancy preoperatively allows total thyroidectomy in a single operation without the need for frozen section or removal of the thyroid remnant in a second surgery. Cytology and molecular biomarkers are the primary diagnostic modalities a surgeon utilizes to determine the extent of thyroid surgery.
Okay. Before we go into this, let us summarize the learning points. Can you just summarize 10-15 points from the memory or what you have written down on paper?
Firstly, coming to thyroid nodule, it is either mostly clinical identifying the thyroid nodule is 5 to 6%, and coming to ultrasonography is the study of choice for thyroid nodule workup evaluation. Cytological and molecular biomarkers like FNAB is very crucial in evaluation of thyroid nodule. Coming to biomarkers, RAS and BRAF mutations are helpful in aiding to the FNAB studies for thyroid nodule. And cold nodules generally suggest risk for malignancy.
Thyroid nodule could be a sharp notes in your theory examination. When we were postgraduates, that next to us, they had this question: thyroid nodule, short notes on thyroid, short notes on thyroid nodule. Everybody said it's a surgical topic. Why they have asked in medicine? Then nothing like surgical or medical. First of all, he comes to you, then you have to direct him to surgeon or endocrinologist, or you have to treat depending on that. So that's why this particular article is chosen. And you should know, a patient comes with a sort of swelling in the thyroid. First and foremost thing is clinical examination you do. In the clinical examination, if it is diffuse enlargement, then it is unlikely to be malignant. Diffuse thyroid enlargement or multinodular goiters usually are not malignant. Diffuse enlargement may be hypothyroid, may be hyperthyroid. There are 4 types of hyperthyroidism: Graves' disease, multinodular goiter, subacute toxic adenoma, or the SAT, subacute adenoma, toxic adenoma, and the next one is the thyroid, autoimmune thyroiditis, where the flooding of the thyroid hormone occurs into the situation due to destruction of the thyroid gland. That is a very temporary phenomenon. There are 4 types of hyperthyroidism. Other than that, a solitary single nodule is coming, then you have to, first important thing is, as you have seen in this article, what is the likelihood that this particular patient is having a malignant nodule, because we don't want to miss the malignant nodule and later on have secondaries and other things. For that, this is important. This prior head and neck surgery, rapid growth, dysphagia, pressure symptoms like dysphonia, male gender, extremes of age, family stuff, medullary cancer. And on examination, is it more than 4 centimeters? Risk of malignancy is very higher. Is it Fuhrmann palpation? Is there underlying tethering to the underlying structures? Is there lymphadenopathy? Is there vocal cord mobility is done? So ENT referral has to be done. So if a patient presents with a single thyroid nodule, we have to evaluate these things. These 6 or 7 points in the history, these 3 or 4 or 5 points in the examination, and a referral for the ENT to find out whether there is an involvement of the vocal cord. If the vocal cord mobility is compromised, or rather deficiency is found, even if the nodule is 1 centimeter, likely that it is malignant. Otherwise, when the vocal cords are intact, unless the nodule is 4 centimeters or more, it is not likely to be malignant. Then, of course, this ENT referral we wrote, and then among the lab studies, the first thing I do is a TSH. TSH is normal or elevated. I am dealing with normal thyroid or hypothyroid. TSH is lower. We may be dealing with hyperfunctioning thyroid gland. For that, what we do is we do a FT4 and TSH. FT4 is elevated, FT3 is elevated, TSH is lower, that is hyperthyroid. So you have to accordingly treat with the management of that, depending on which category of hyperthyroidism is that. Okay. Now calcitonin, as a routine, we don't do calcitonin because medullary carcinoma in general is of not very great proportion, and this cannot distinguish between malignant and benign. Then, of course, the most important study would be an ultrasound and ultrasound guided biopsy. What is that ultrasound guided biopsy? Is the FNAB, and for cytology, you look at the cytology. The result can be 4 types. Is it benign, malignant, indeterminate, or what are the 4 things? Benign, malignant, and then indeterminate and undiagnosed, and cannot be classified. If it cannot be classified, you have to repeat the biopsy once again. after a time interval. Then when you do the FNAC, there is a possibility of doing a biomarker. These are highly expensive. BRAF and ROS biomarkers. These are useful when there are FLUS lesions. That is now follicular type of lesions. When you see in the ultrasound, then you can think of that. And which type of ultrasound feature suggests malignancy? That is given. Radioisotope imaging is not routinely required because radioisotope imaging doesn't have a very good specificity, very low specificity. And if the nodule is hot, then it's less likely to be malignant. If it is cold, more likely to be malignant. So radioisotope imaging is rather a reserved entity for this particular disease. So ultrasound examination, FNAB examination, and FNAB, if necessary, a biomarker can be added. CT and MRI out of question, unless it is a substernal thyroid. Substernal thyroid evaluation, it may be useful. Otherwise, CT MRI, don't write CT MRI. So clinical examination, history, ENT referral, ultrasound, FNAB, no radioisotopes in general, and then TSH, of course, you do, no radioisotopes, no CT MRI for this patient. PET scan, not at all required. Very rarely we use PET scan. It is not useful in this particular disease. Fine needle aspiration, it throws a possibility of benign, intermediate, indeterminate, non-diagnostic, and malignant. The fourth one is the malignant, and the fifth one is the FLUS. FLUS. These are the four possibilities it can come. And when there is a doubt, biomarkers can be helpful. Okay. Aspiration biopsy needle, and then have the BRAF and RAS modification. The markers can be used, but they are highly expensive. So indeed, this is useful only in the indeterminate type, and not when it is clearly malignant. When it is clearly benign, we don't do it. If it is non-diagnostic, again, this is not going to be useful. Repeat biopsy is required. Nodule size is a determinant for the surgeon. If it is 4 centimeters, most likely you have to end up in surgery. What are the two surgeries possible? One, lobectomy. The other is total thyroidectomy. Why total thyroidectomy is not done routinely? Because total thyroidectomy involves lifelong replacement of the thyroid, and there is a possibility you will remove the parathyroid, and there is a possibility that you may induce the recurrent laryngeal nerve. So total thyroidectomy is not commonly done for these three reasons: lifelong thyroid replacement, possibility of hypoparathyroid, because parathyroid may be removed inadvertently or advertently, and there will be also a risk of injury to the recurrent laryngeal nerve. Versus lobectomy, these risks are lesser because there is a functioning thyroid tissue still left, and that will take care of the remaining life thyroid supply, and parathyroids are intact. Usually when you do a nodule, around the nodule you do a lobectomy, you are not endangering the recurrent laryngeal nerve. So the surgeon has a decision whether he should do a lobectomy or whether he should do a total thyroidectomy. What is the guideline? Is the nodule more than 4 centimeters? Then most likely, by thyroid size itself is around 2 centimeters. They said 2 centimeters. They said the nodule is so big, it is going to compress the thing and produce the pressure symptoms, and more likely the malignancy also is there. Better you remove the entire thyroid and replace with the replaced thyroid lifetime. Our second thing is the nodule is somewhere around 1 to 3 centimeters or something like that. Even 1 centimeter nodule, if it is malignant, I don't want to do a second surgery. Find out, first you do a first surgery, take out the gland, send it for a biopsy. Pathologist says it's malignant, go for the second surgery, remove the remaining thyroid. That's not required. So for that, what they do? We do a biomarker. If you do a biomarker and the biomarker is positive and the biopsy is very clear cut, showing that it is malignancy, even if it is 1 centimeter nodule or 2 centimeter nodule, total thyroidectomy is the treatment of choice. Sub 1 centimeter nodules, non-malignant nodules, they deserve only the frequent follow-up. They don't deserve immediate total thyroidectomy or lobectomy. So this is the total picture that we have got. And what is this frozen section analysis? Is the patient is on the table, and then you take the bit from the gland and make a frozen section, and give it to the pathologist, makes a frozen section with the specimen, and then immediately within 1 hour, the pathologist comes back, not even 1 hour, even less than that, comes back and tells that it is malignant or non-malignant. And for that time, half an hour or so, the frozen section lab is associated with the surgical department itself, with the OT, and some pathologist comes there and examines and tells. So pathologist says, okay, go ahead, it is malignant. Then he will remove the whole gland. No, it's not looking like malignant, only lobectomy. But this FNAC and that waiting time of about half an hour or so, availability of a pathologist on call with the OT is a little difficult to coordinate. For that reason, the biomarkers might be useful when you do an FNAC, so that the one shot you can finish the surgery. You don't have to have a two-stage procedure. So the ATA guidelines are important for thyroid nodule, which we are going to show you, and I will also show one more slide, which is prepared by me for some other purpose. Most important thing is asymptomatic thyroid nodule should be evaluated with a diagnostic ultrasound and a TSH as the primary recommendation. Okay, and thyroid iodine, radioiodine uptake, or the MRI CT, or these things are not routinely ordered. Okay, now we have got if it is unsatisfactory or if it is benign, indeterminate, malignant, one of the 4 categories, and one other category is follicular lesion of undetermined significance, also called FLUS, where exactly the biomarkers will be of some use. Okay, BRAF and RAS biomarkers. And other than that, this is the summary which we also made all the same points. They have not summarized everything. Whatever we now talked of is the summary of this presentation of this particular article. Okay, now let us look at this very closely. It is difficult for some of you to see on the mobile phone. I will try to enlarge and explain it. See, there is a thyroid patient came with a thyroid nodule. Is it less than 1 centimeter? Yes. No other test. Straight away, ultrasound every 1 year. A 1 centimeter solitary nodule is sub-centimeter solitary nodule is very unlikely to be malignant. So you don't require to do FNAC or radio scanning or do biomarkers or do all these tests. If necessary, just do a TSH, that's all. Other than that, you don't have to do anything. If the thyroid nodule is more than 1 centimeter, asymptomatic thyroid nodule 1 centimeter or larger, that is the problem. If a fellow has got a nodule, all right, it is more than 1 centimeter and his patient doesn't have any symptoms, then my question is, should I submit him for surgery or should I not? The decision depends upon, is it malignant or non-malignant? Okay, because it's symptomatic, for symptom reason, I don't have to do surgery. For malignancy reason, I have to do surgery. How do I know that? I need to evaluate. Just keep it for a while. Go to the extreme left-hand side. Patient is symptomatic, means he's having dysphonia, he's having dysphagia, he's having pressure symptoms. Then you do CT or MRI to see the extent, whether it's a retrosternal extension, do a spirometry, whether it is compressing on the trachea and the pulmonary function is compromised, and then decide on thyroid lobectomy. Okay, how you go about? A thyroid nodule patient has come, sub-centimeter ultrasound every 1 year. More than 4 centimeters, our patient is symptomatic. More than patient is symptomatic, and then you do thyroid lobectomy. But if the patient is having asymptomatic nodule, which is larger than 1 centimeter, then do a TSH. TSH can be normal or high or low. If the TSH is lower, I think I may be dealing with hyperthyroidism. Immediately, I do a scintigram. Scintigram is technetium-99m. The preferred isotope is technetium-99m. There are 3, I-121, I-131, and technetium-99m. Technetium-99 scintigraphy tells me it is a hot nodule. It is not my bread and butter because it is a scintigraphy positive. Thyroid hormone TSH is low, must be hyperthyroidism. Refer to the endocrinologist. No FNAB. If it is hot nodule, very unlikely it is malignant. You have no business to touch it because it will bleed because of the hyperfunctioning thyroid. So don't do FNAB on that. When the TSH is low, then you do a scintigram. The scintigram shows, and after the TSH, you can even do a FT4 TSH also here, and the FT4 TSH will confirm that the FT4 is higher and TSH is higher, and then it confirms the hyperfunction. Then confirm it by scintigraphy, hot nodule, and endocrinologist. Warm or cold nodule, not very severely increased uptake, or it is a warm nodule is rather normal, or cold nodule, where is negative uptake, less uptake compared to the rest of the thyroid gland. Or if the patient throw a normal TSH or an elevated TSH, then the question is it more than 4 centimeters? If it is more than 4 centimeters, I have a chance of having a malignancy for this patient, because more than 4 centimeters, the occurrence of thyroid malignancy is around 20%. So I have to do an FNAC or FNAB and decide whether he requires lobectomy if it is not malignant, or thyroidectomy if it is malignant. Gone. Now come to the patient who is having a thyroid nodule, who is asymptomatic, who is larger than 1 centimeter, but less than 4 centimeters, thyroid function test TSH is normal or high, and then you do an ultrasound guided FNAB. Ultrasound guided FNAB also is done for the scintigraphy fellow who threw a cold nodule. This ultrasound guided biopsy will give me 4 results. Unsatisfactory, that means my biopsy is not satisfactory. Then repeat the biopsy. It is malignant, total thyroid. If it is suspicious, okay, fine needle aspiration is suspicious, in that case what you do is it BARF and RAS negative, BARF RAS positive. If it is positive, total thyroidectomy. If it is negative, thyroid lobectomy. Okay. If it is follicular, FLUS, follicular type of this one, ultrasound, it has thrown, then again do BARF and RAS mutation. If BARF RAS is absent, then this is an undetermined the significance. So you repeat the biopsy because there is still a chance of malignancy here, even if the mutations are not there. If the mutations are there, no more repeat biopsy. There is one evidence here, there is another evidence here, and that fellow will go for total thyroid. Okay, and then the report came as benign. What do I do? It is less than 4 centimeters, asymptomatic, TSH is normal or elevated, and the report came as benign. Follow FU ultrasound every year. And if the gland is increasing in size, or if the ultrasound features of irregular margins, a hollow, and then the poor differentiation and hypervascularity are seen, then of course you go in for FNAB. Okay, and depending on the FNAB, the result will be again classified into these 4, and then you act. This is the algorithmic approach for thyroid nodule. I hope you understood this. Okay.